शक्ल देखो हैरान है
A very good afternoon to our esteemed speakers, our principal, Professor Lalima Singh, the distinguished delegates, the teachers, and partakers. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'm your host, Dashta Srivastav from Saroj Lalji Mehrotra Center of Legal Studies. It gives me immense pleasure to acknowledge all of your presence on the behalf of the entire organizing community. It is an opportune moment to deliberate upon the problem of gender inequality and women empowerment with our esteemed delegates. The topic for today's webinar is Women Empowerment and Gender Equality with a special reference to Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. Both monster and maiden, both cure and poison. All of these things and at the same time human. Defined by no man, you are your own story. Blazing through the world, turning history into her story. And when they dare to tell you about all the things you cannot be, you smile and tell them, I am both war and woman, and you cannot stop me. Women empowerment and gender equality are the two terms that we often hear currently. But what do they mean? What exactly do they stand for? It is commonly understood that gender equality is taken for considering women equal to men and granting them the same rights as men, while women empowerment is taken as limited to giving women the right of freedom to vote, work, study, and become self sufficient. These two terms, short yet the need of the hour, cover a wider and a deeper set of challenges that women deal with on daily basis. It not only affects women at personal level but the entire world at all level like social, psychological, economic and many more. As per the report of World Economic Forum, world economy loses $12 trillion every year due to gender inequality and violence that women face. The resources and energy spent on preventing the violence against women could be utilized in making more sustainable civilization if violence against women did not exist. But this sadly is not the case. Even though more women friendly laws and cultural spaces are constructed every year, the world is far from being a women friendly place. In India itself, while the GDP was 6% in the last 2 decades, the participation of women in labor has reduced to 23% in 2019 from 34% in 2001. Women empowerment, gender justice, and gender equality are more than the known challenges like child marriage, dowry prohibition, rape, etc. The current world order also need to address pay gap, workplace violence, social and cultural injustice, legal rights to work and to hold property. In India, women are paid as less as third of the pay received by men for the same or more work. Over 23 million girls drop out of school every year due to absence of toilets and lack of awareness about menstruation. Girls belonging to the families of 20% receives an average of education of 9 years while those of lower strata never even step inside a classroom. Over 8 million girls were aborted in last 1 decade. As per Credit Suisse, Indian women hold only 20% of the 6 trillion
अच्छा
household economy. Gender
आज
equality is still a big question mark in a
वो देखो
world that aims
वो
to
देखो
settle first human
she's
colony
getting
on
so
Mars by 2024.
she's getting so much
From
of
fighting for the right to vote during suffrage to fighting for the right to their very body in 21st century, women across all ages, geographies and eras have faced and overcome the unthinkable. From developing the theory of radioactivity to being a crucial part in the discovery of DNA, women have ingrained their achievements in every field when given the chance. In true order to empower women, our country and the entire world needs to work harder to achieve sustainable development goal of gender equality by 2030. Gender equality, gender justice, women empowerment, women safety, all of these begin at home and in community. Hence, inculcating behavioral changes towards girls and women in their community, sensitizing boys as they grow up toward girls, and promoting the equality between a girl child and a boy child are a start line of the journey to make the world a better place for women. In India, in order to address the gender imbalance and the discrimination against the girl child, the government has launched a social scheme by the name of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. This scheme was launched by the Prime Minister on 22nd of January 2015 at Panipat, Haryana. This scheme was launched to increase the awareness among common people to save the life of their girl child by completely removing female foeticide. People should celebrate the birth of their girl child and educate them with full responsibility as they do so for their boy child. This scheme is the urgent need of today's time, as without saving and empowering women of a country, development is not possible at all. And that's why they need equal right facilities and opportunities and so that they can go ahead and contribute to the development of India. This scheme is regarding girls' safety, protection, and better education in the future without putting much load on the parents. And in order to support this campaign, government has launched another program by the name of Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, under which parents deposit certain amount in bank for which they will get benefited in future, and they can use that amount either for the marriage or for the education of their girl child. Such ambitious approach of the Indian government in the form of schemes like Beti Bachao Beti Padhao will surely bring positive changes in the status of women in India. Thank you. Now I request our principal ma'am, Professor Lalima Singh, to say a few words.
Thank you, Darshita. Am I audible, beta? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Before, a very good afternoon to our distinguished speakers and the guests, respected faculty members, students, and all those who have joined this webinar today all over the country. I think so, as I have been informed, almost more than 800 registrations have been there in this one-day webinar, which has been the first initiative of the faculty members of Saroj Lalji Center of Legal Studies. And of course, the students of this faculty have also contributed in making this webinar a success. Today, women empowerment with reference to Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which is the topic for today's webinar, is not just a concept or an issue on which we'll be deliberating, but for us at SS Khanna Girls Degree College, it's an everyday task, and a task towards which we are fully committed with an aim to cater to the needs of the girls belonging to the diverse socio-economic background with the objective of cultivating moral, intellectual, spiritual, social, and emotional values in them for their overall development. We in SS Khanna Girls Degree College strive for excellence in channelizing the potential of the students who can lead a new India of our dreams. I take this opportunity in welcoming the distinguished speakers who have joined this webinar today. At the very outset, I accord a very warm welcome to Mr. Ashwar Pratap Singh, who's presently Secretary, District Legal Service Authority, Kanpur, who's a young, dynamic officer who has been very proactive in delivering talks on various local, social, and legal issues. It was just yesterday that I was just scrolling the Facebook and I could see that Mr. Ashwar Pratap Singh On account of National Legal Services Day, he went on for an inspection of District Jail Kanpur and attended the awareness campaign which had been organized for the female prisoners. This is indeed a very commendable effort being taken by the young officer, Mr. Ashwar Pratap Singh. As far as I know, Ashwar Pratap Singh has not restricted himself to his professional duties. He is contributing through his blog and writing papers at the various live law tubes and various law journals about the very important and intricate social issues. We are indeed honored to have such a multifarious personality who will be speaking on Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao. We extend a very warm welcome to you, Ashwarji, on behalf of the management, my students, Center of Legal Studies, a very warm welcome to you. We have Professor Shakil Samdani, Dean Faculty of Law, Aligarh Muslim University, who's a noted academician and an agile public speaker known for his contributions on social, political, and legal issues. He is also a voracious reader and prolific writer who has been contributing in the columns of newspaper and various magazine. He has been participating. We could see him on various debates and discussions on several TV channels. Sir, we welcome you in this webinar on behalf of SS Kanna Girls Degree College. We have Miss Flavia Ignis, a prominent women's rights lawyer practicing at the Mumbai High Court, working industriously for the protection of women's rights on the issues relating to matrimonial disputes, domestic violence, child custody, property rights, etc. We are privileged to have such a senior lawyer who would be throwing light, who would be sharing her views with the all women participants who are here in this webinar on a very important issue, that is Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao. We are delighted to have you, ma'am, with us this afternoon in this one-day national webinar. A very warm welcome to you too, ma'am. We are truly honored and privileged to have such esteemed guests in this webinar who will be gracing the college, and we all, I'm confident, will benefit with their views and will try to incorporate them in their own lifestyle by protecting the Betis of our country. I also welcome all the participants who have joined this webinar across the country. A very warm welcome to you on this platform on behalf of SS Kanna Girls Degree College. I'm sure we are going to have a very fruitful session. We all are eager to hear to the participants. Thank you, Darshana. Please carry on with the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for introducing our distinguished speakers, ma'am. I now request Ms. Subodhika Sharma, ma'am, to proceed with the first session.
Thank you, Darshita. At the outset, I welcome all the participants once again to this national webinar on gender justice and women empowerment. Without much ado, I would like to introduce our distinguished speaker for the first session, that is Mr. Aishwarya Pratap Singh. Sir is an alumnus of the Faculty of Law, University of Allahabad. He graduated in the year 2012 with first division with distinction, along with Narayani Sahai Gold Medal for securing first rank in BA LLB. Sir topped the UPPSC Civil Judge examination in the year 2013, joined the Judicial Services in 2015, and is currently posted at Kanpur as Civil Judge Senior Division. Recently, Sir has been appointed as the Secretary of District Legal Services Authority, Kanpur Nagar. Amidst the lockdown period, he has been actively engaging in delivering lectures at various institutes and organizations on current social and legal issues. We are truly privileged to have you amidst us today, sir, and look forward to your insights on the present topic. I now invite Aishwarya sir to proceed with the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
A very good afternoon, Principal Madam, Professor Dr. Lalima Singh, ma'am, the eminent and learned panelists, the organizers, and every participant of this webinar. I must first congratulate the college for choosing this topic, gender justice and women empowerment, with special reference to Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, because it is one of the schemes which has been adopted by the National Legal Service Authority to spread awareness on at the grassroots level and everywhere. As discussed, it was just yesterday that we celebrated the National Legal Services Day. And this day is dedicated to ensure access to justice for everyone, with special reference to the marginalized sections and the weaker sections and the vulnerable groups, women being one of them. So I think it is more than 70 years, I think 73 years to be exact, since India became independent. And we still have so much to do, and we still need a change in attitudes and mindsets so far as recognition or commitment to the core values of the constitution is concerned, so far as gender justice and women empowerment is concerned. Now, women in our society have been subjected to various forms of discrimination since ages. But the worst form of discrimination, I feel, is the very denial of the right to be born or the right to birth. When people start with early sex detection with the misuse of technology, and I think this is the first thing that needs to be taken care of. And as a result of this, we have seen the trend of declining sex ratio throughout the country. Now, it is in order to reverse this trend of declining sex ratio that we have this scheme of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. As has already been discussed, that this scheme was launched in the year 2015 by the Honorable Prime Minister. It is basically a tri-ministerial effort. It is in collaboration of the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Resources and Development, and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Now, it was discussed that this scheme was launched by the Prime Minister in 2015 at Panipat, Haryana. Now, I would say that the choice of district Panipat for the launch of this scheme would be more than symbolic, because we all have read in history about the three famous battles of Panipat. And I would say that this is no less than the fourth battle of Panipat, which is still on. This fourth battle of Panipat is against ingrained attitudes. It is against discriminatory practices, customs, and traditions that discriminate against women. So we have to emerge victorious in this fourth battle of Panipat, if I may say so. Now, the idea behind this scheme is to change the attitude of the people who see girl child as a burden, and to ensure that they start celebrating the birth of every girl child. Now, I would begin with the cause. Now, what is the cause? What is the root cause of this problem? The root cause of this problem is a phenomena or a syndrome called the son preference syndrome, with which I think a major part of the society is affected. The son preference syndrome, basically, in India, is one example where couples look forward for the birth of a male child, because there is a looking down attitude of the society that if a couple is unable to produce a male child, they do not have an heir, which is a totally wrong misconception so far as the law is concerned, because I would be discussing in the latter part of my discussion that so far as the succession laws are concerned, there is no inequality. Sons and daughters have been treated equally by the various enactments so far as succession and property rights are concerned, inheritance is concerned. It is only the thinking that, or the customs or practices that discriminate. Now, so far as statistics is concerned, I was reading the Economic Survey 2017-18, which statistically proves something called the son meta preference. Now, this statistic shows that the sex of the last child has been overwhelmingly male. So this shows the desire to have a male child, and this shows that how the society is badly affected by this son preference syndrome. And unfortunately, this practice has been prevalent in all sections of the society, not only the illiterate, but even the literate, even the educated or the elite class, so-called. And we have to remedy the situation. And it is with this object that we have enactments like the PCT-NDT Act, which is the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, to nip in the bud very problem. Now, to begin with the legal discussion, I would begin with the Constitution of India, because it is in jurisprudence. I think we are all law students. Some might have read jurisprudence, some might be reading. There is a concept called the Grand Norm. Grand Norm basically is the mother of all the laws, from which all the other laws derive their validity from. So the Constitution of India is the mother of all the laws, from which all the laws, all the enactments, all the notifications, orders, they derive their validity from. Now we have Article 14 in the Constitution of India, which talks about the right to equality. It provides that the state shall not deny to any individual the right to equality or the equal protection of laws. Now, this right basically has been worded in a negative language, and it can be divided into two parts. The first part basically is a negative dimension, which merely, or a mechanical dimension, which merely states that no individual can be discriminated against, or the state shall not discriminate between individuals and shall afford equal protection of laws to all. So this is merely a mechanical or negative dimension. There is a dimension beyond that, which is a positive dimension and which has been interpreted judicially by the honorable higher courts, like the Honorable Apex Court and the Honorable High Courts. Now, this dimension is that the state shall take proactive steps to remove and eliminate the automatically depriving circumstances in the society. And the state shall take proactive steps to ensure protection to the vulnerable groups in the society. Now, women and children have been recognized as a vulnerable group in the society, and there are many such practices which are automatically depriving circumstances, which have to be removed in a phased manner by enactments, by laws, by notification orders, and most important, by change in attitude. Now, the makers of the constitution were not satisfied that we should have just one Article 14, because in a country like India, where we had so many centuries old traditions and practices, which were the main cause of inequality and discrimination. So we have a specific Article 15, which states that the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, or any of them. So this was an emphatic assertion. It directly prohibited certain acts, and it was a special provision for a country like India, because merely a negative undertaking was not enough. Now, moving ahead, Article 15, Clause 3 is the most important part so far as gender justice and women empowerment is concerned. Now, Article 15, Clause 3 of the Constitution permits the state to make special provision for women and children. So, Article 15, Clause 3 recognizes women and children as a special class. The Constitution has conferred a special class conferred a special status on women and children, so far as the enactment of laws is concerned. So all the laws which afford protection, which prevent discrimination, they are within the ambit of Article 15, Clause 3, something which we call positive discrimination. So, and now then, judicially, we have a new concept of equality. The students of Constitution might be knowing that initially we had a doctrine of classification, where we used to determine what is reasonable classification and what is not. The new concept of equality does not require this classification. If any law, any order, any notification is per se arbitrary, it will be struck down without going into the classification test. So now I would be just discussing a few judgments which are landmarks or path-breaking so far as gender justice and women empowerment is concerned. The first, I think all must have read, is Air India versus Nargish Mirza. It is a judgment of the year 1981, where there was a regulation of the Air India rules, Regulation 46, which provided that an air hostess would retire from service of the corporation upon attaining the age of 35 years, or on marriage or on first pregnancy, whichever occurred earlier. Now, this was basically a regulation which made gender the basis of discrimination. So the Honorable Apex Court, without going into the classification test, directly struck down the rule and held that the termination of service on the basis of pregnancy of an air hostess was manifestly unreasonable and arbitrary, and was therefore clearly violative of Article 14. So this was a path-breaking judgment so far as gender justice is concerned. Now, I would refer to one of the very latest judgments of the Honorable Apex Court, which was delivered in March 2020, which is the Secretary, Ministry of Defense versus Babita Punia. Now, this was a judgment in which the Honorable Apex Court ruled in favor of permanent commission for women or lady officers in the Indian Navy and the Indian Army. We have 73 years of independent India, but till now we did not have permanent commission for lady officers in the Indian Army and the Indian Navy. They were just short service commissioned officers. So this issue was taken up before the Honorable Apex Court. And the Honorable Apex Court, in a bench headed by Honorable Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, scrapped the statutory bar on giving permanent commission to the women and said that the government cannot discriminate against women. Now, it was very surprising that in the affidavit filed by the Government of India in the Honorable Apex Court, the reason given for this discrimination was that the rank and file in the Indian Army was opposed to being to women being commanding officers, that they will not take the authority of women as commanding officers. At this, the Honorable Apex Court observed, and I would quote, that 101 excuses are no answer to the constitutional entitlement to dignity, which attaches to every individual, irrespective of gender, to fair and equal conditions of work and to a level playing field. A level playing field ensures that women have the opportunity to overcome their histories of discrimination with the surest of responses based on their competence, ability, and performance. So the Honorable Court was of the view that it is the competence, ability, and performance that has to be the ground for being permanent commission officers, and not what the rank and file thinks. The Honorable Court further observed and rather lamented. It held that if society holds strong beliefs about gender roles, this is very important, that if society holds strong beliefs about gender roles, that men are socially dominant, physically powerful, and the breadwinners of the family, and on the other hand, women are weak and physically submissive and primarily the caretakers confined to a domestic atmosphere, it is unlikely that there would be a change in mindset. It was held that the time has come for a realization that women officers in the army are not only adjuncts to a male dominated establishment whose presence must be merely tolerated within narrow limits. The court observed that women were being kept out of command posts on the reasoning that the largely rank and file will have problems with women as commanding officers. This is not acceptable. Changes have to take place in the culture, norms, and values of not only the rank and file of the army, but also that of the society at large. And it was held that the responsibility to usher in these changes is on the senior military leadership and the political leadership. And similar has been the laws and the position in United States, Israel, North Korea, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Australia, and Canada, where the militaries they employ women in frontline combat positions and in command level positions. So it is the right of every woman to pursue a career of her choice and reach the top, because equality is now a constitutional guarantee. It is no not only it is not a favor; it is a constitutional guarantee that every woman is entitled as a matter of right. Now, coming to another very pertinent judgment that was pronounced very recently, it was a three-judge bench judgment, and it was headed by Honorable Justice Arun Mishra, and the judgment is Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma. As discussed, that the looking down attitude of not having a son was considered because a daughter was not considered as an heir. Now we had the Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005, if I'm not wrong. It is, yes, it is enactment 2000 Hindu Succession Act 2005, Amendment Act 2005, which amended Section 6, and it stated that every daughter shall by birth in her own right be a co-partner. Till now, we had the Mitakshara Hindu law in which only three male lineal descendants, that is, only four generations of males were the co-partners or the kartas, who had absolute right in the joint Hindu family property. But after this amendment, Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005, every daughter shall by birth have the same right as that of a son in the joint Hindu property. Now, later on, there were some technical interpretation issues that whether this amendment is prospective. What if the girl was born and her father was dead before the amendment? So, regarding the operation of the amendment, there was a lot of confusion. The Honorable Apex Court in this landmark and progressive judgment clarified and ruled that a Hindu woman's right to be a joint heir to the ancestral property is by birth and does not depend on whether her father was alive or not when the law was enacted in 2005. Now it has been very clearly held that this amendment shall have a retrospective effect. It doesn't matter when the father was alive or not at the time of the enactment. The woman will be by birth in her own right a co-partner and shall have the same rights as that of a son in joint Hindu property. Now, the ruling has affirmed the equal rights of daughters to co-partnership property, and most significantly, the ruling has clarified that irrespective of a co-partner father being alive or not, on or before the amendment 2005, a daughter would be entitled to a share in the joint property in the same manner as a son simply by virtue of a birth and her being alive on the date of coming into force of the 2005 Amendment Act. The ruling has overruled all the previous verdicts from 2015 to 2018, which created confusion, and it has clearly settled the law and expanded the intention of the 2005 Amendment Act. Moving on, I would come to the latest pronouncement of the Honorable Apex Court so far as gender justice is concerned, and that is pertaining to domestic violence. The Honorable Apex Court in Satish Chandar Ahuja versus Sneha Ahuja And this is as latest as October 2020, wherein the Honorable Apex Court basically expanded the definition of shared household. Till now, the law was that a woman did not have a right of a woman who's subjected to domestic violence did not have the right of residence if the property belonged to the father-in-law or the mother-in-law. She only had the right of residence if the property was a self-acquired property of the husband and she lived there as husband and wife in that house. Now, the Honorable Apex Court has expanded the definition of shared household and has overruled the earlier decision. I'm not remembering the earlier decision. The present judgment is Satish Chandra Ahuja versus Sneha Ahuja, and it has been held that shared household can be the self-acquired property of the father-in-law, mother-in-law, or even a relative of the husband. But if the lady has resided as wife of the husband in that particular house, she has a right to reside in that house. And Honorable Apex Court made a very pertinent observation, which I would quote, that the progress of any society depends on its ability to protect and promote the rights of its women. While ruling that a woman is entitled to claim right of residence in a shared household where she has been living with her husband, even if the said premises belongs to his relatives, that is the relatives of the husband. So this distinction between joint property and self-acquired property has been done away with. It is a very progressive judgment, and it overruled the former judgment. The Honorable Apex Court lamented on the fact that domestic violence is something, it is a very grave sort of a happening, and it is being underreported. It was observed that domestic violence in this country is rampant and several women encounter violence in some form or the other or almost every day. However, it is least reported form of cruel behavior. A woman resigns her fate to the never ending cycle of enduring violence and discrimination as a daughter, a sister, wife, mother, partner, or a single woman in her lifetime. This non retaliation by women, coupled with the absence of laws addressing women's issues, ignorance of the existing laws enacted for women, and societal attitude, makes the women vulnerable. The reason why most cases of domestic violence are never reported is due to the social stigma that the society, what the society would think, and the attitude of the women themselves. So, I think it is the lack of awareness and thinking that it will bring a social stigma that such cases are underreported. Otherwise, Domestic Violence Act 2005 is one of the most progressive enactments. It not only caters to domestic violence, it has given a very broad definition to domestic violence, which includes not only physical violence but even emotional and economic abuse. Shared household has again been given a very broad interpretation. It not only sort of punishes the offender, but it also makes provision for interim maintenance. We get applications in the court in which it caters to the needs of not only the woman who's the victim, but also if the woman has a child, her school fees, her day-to-day legal expenses. So it is a very progressive enactment, but it is due to a lack of awareness, or maybe because of the social stigma that such cases are not reported as much. Now these judgments are they have brought a progressive change, and they show the attitude of the courts, the higher courts, which now appear to uphold the principles of substantive justice for women, both in theory and practice, so far as the higher judiciary in India is concerned. And they will go a long way in dismantling the patriarchal practices and institutions. But the problem is that are the judgments and the laws enough? Because it is not merely the delivery of a judgment that brings the change. I think it is the proper implementation and the proper awareness of the laws and the schemes that the government has that might bring about a change. We have many such laws, many progressive enactments. If I would have the time, I could have discussed like the sexual harassment at workplace. We organized a workshop at the district court itself. We had 160 women employees, and the workshop was on sexual harassment at workplace, and not even a single women employee was aware about the law. It is mandatory for every employer having more than 10 employees to have a internal complaints committee to address sexual harassment at workplace. It is a very progressive enactment because generally, if anything is reported as per the criminal procedure, it is quite a long procedure. But this internal complaints committee has been given a mandate to decide the matter within 90 days. If any sexual harassment complaint is received by this committee, the committee is headed by the senior most women employee, and it has to decide the matter within 90 days. And there can be punishments ranging from termination to suspension to even demotion. So it is a very progressive enactment, but again, that lack of awareness and sensitization is, I think, the cause of underreporting. So as I said, that the laws are many, but where does the gap lie? I think I would be concluding with the concluding remarks as to what needs to be done. Now, what needs to be done? I think first of all, we must focus on the education of every girl child to actually empower them. We are running a campaign called Empowering Women Through Legal Awareness. I think ignorance and lack of awareness are the biggest roadblocks uh, towards gender justice and towards women empowerment. So focus on the education of every girl child, which is this motto Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. Second is, it is not only a one-sided affair. It is not that we have to focus on the education of the girl child, even orientation of men, especially adolescent men, through education and counseling to respect women. We have to bring about a change in attitude not only of women but of the males as well, with proper counseling. Third is immediate intervention to eliminate various forms of gender discriminatory practices. We have many laws in place like the PCPNDT Act and so many enactments. And finally, it is believed that if we can change the mindset of all stakeholders by information, communication, and education, it would bring about a sea change. So, with this, I would end. Thank you for giving the time to discuss the views and to be a part of this panel. And I can see many juniors of my faculty being a part of this program, and I feel so proud. You all are torchbearers of women empowerment and gender justice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Your insights on the present topic were quite very motivating for us. Thanks a lot for your deliberations. I now invite Darshita to proceed with the other sessions.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your insightful words. I now request Ms. Apurva Singh, ma'am, to proceed with the second session.
Thank you, Darshita. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, ma'am, you are. Please continue.
Thank you. On behalf of SS Khanna Girls Degree College, I accord a warm welcome to you, sir. Professor Mohammad Shakil Ahmed Samdani, sir, is currently working as a Dean, Faculty of Law at Aligarh Muslim University. In addition to this, sir is also the coordinator of Aligarh Muslim University Centers and a member of the Aligarh Muslim University Academic Council. Sir is also a member of the Aligarh Muslim University Court. Sir has an incredible teaching experience of 30 years with specializations in plethora of fields in law. Sir has 2 books authored to his name and has held various administrative posts throughout his teaching career. Recently, Sir was felicitated with the award in the field of law and social work 2020 at Bhopal. I would now request you, sir, to kindly enlighten our participants.
Okay, thank you. Auzubillahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Respected Dr. Lalima Singh Sahiba, Principal, Dynamic Principal of the college, Aishwar Pratap Singh, whom I have seen today after a gap of at least 1.5 years, although we have been talking. Then Madam from Bombay, faculty members of the SS Khanna Degree College, as well as the Saroj Lal Ji, Mehrotra Center of Legal Studies. My dear students, ladies and gentlemen, and dear participants, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As far as the second session is concerned, I am thankful to Mr. Aishwar Pratap Singh that he has covered the entire legal provisions as well as the latest judgments relating to the women. In one-day seminar or webinar, where there are only 3 speakers and they have limited time, I think it would be better not to repeat those things which have been said earlier. As far as the talk of Mr. Aishwar Pratap Singh is concerned, that was brilliant, that was excellent. And the reason is that he is the topper of Allahabad University. He has topped the judicial services examination, as well as he has a very good command over the language. My dear friends, after I would like to say a few things about the Constitution, that as far as our Constitution is concerned, now legally we have no discrimination on the basis of sex. As far as Article 14 is concerned, Article 15 is concerned, we have no, and there are certain articles in the Active Principles of State Policy, there is no discrimination legally. And but why the women are being discriminated? Why the ratio is going down every day? We have to find out that reason. All of us know that by just making laws, if you make laws, very good laws, and if the society is not willing to accept those laws, then that is of no use. For example, we have Dowry Prohibition Act in 1961. 39 years plus 20 years. About 70 years. About 60 years. About 60 years have passed and we are unable to control the dowry. We have very stringent laws. Even the law is such that those who have not committed any offense, they have not done anything, they are living in USA, they have no connection with the groom for the last 10 years, they are sometimes arrested, they are sometimes prosecuted, they are sometimes sent to jail. What is the reason, my dear friends? What is the reason that a very good law, totally in favor of women, I mean the bride or the wife, is unable to prevent the dowry? Every day we find that dowry is being paid to the groom, and very happily by the bride's family. बहुत खुशी से हम लोग कभी कभी लाइब्रेरी में बैठा करते थे तो वहां पर बहुत से स्टूडेंट्स आते थे, तो बात ये होती थी कि गैर मुस्लिम भी होते थे, मुस्लिम भी होते थे। बात होती थी कि तू जजगढ़ हो गया तो इतने लाख तुझे मिलेंगे, इसका सिर्फ सिलेक्शन हो गया तो इतने लाख तुझे ऑफर हुए। ये मैडम आप भी जानती होंगी, सब जानते हो, ऐश्वर्य साहब भी जानते हो। इसको कैसे रोकोगी? ये बच्ची जो कंडक्ट कर रही, क्या नाम बेटा तुम्हारा? व्हाट्स योर नेम? टाई लगा के
दर्शिता।
दर्शिता, बताओ इसमें किसकी जिम्मेदारी है? खुद अभी सिलेक्शन हुआ नहीं कि लोग कमीशन से बच्चों का नाम लेके उनके घर पहुंच जाते हैं। इसको कैसे रोकेगा? खूब लॉस बनाइए, खूब फांसी पे चढ़ा दीजिए, आधी पॉपुलेशन को मार डालिए, लेकिन ये कैसे रुकेगा? आईएएस बच्चा होता लोग, ऐश्वर्य प्रताप सिंह चाहती है तो कम से कम 1 करोड़ रुपया मिल जाता है इनको। इन्होंने शायद बिना पैसे के शादी की होगी, ये पढ़े लिखे आदमी है और लीगल सर्विसेज में आ गए, बहुत अच्छी बात है। वहां से बहुत काम, 2-3 साल बहुत काम कर सकते हैं। तो बात ये लॉज के हमारे पे ये पूरा है, मैं पढ़ दूं 2 घंटे तक, सारे लॉज यूनाइटेड नेशन सब पढ़ दूं। बात ये है कि हाउ टू चेंज द एटीट्यूड ऑफ सोसाइटी। यही जो लोग लॉज बना रहे हैं, लॉज पे आप बोल रही हैं, मैं आई एम नॉट श्योर कि मैं जो बात, लेकिन ये हो ये सकता है कि कल को आपकी शादी हो, आपका बच्चा आईएएस बन जाए, तो आप खुद और आपकी फैमिली ये कहे कि इस वक्त 5 करोड़ से कम तो नहीं लेंगे। लालिमा सिंह साहिबा यह है, वीमेन इंपावरमेंट की बात है, तो इनसे बड़ा क्या कोई सबूत होगा? शी इज द लिविंग एग्जाम्पल ऑफ द वीमेन इंपावरमेंट। एसएस खन्ना गर्ल्स डिग्री कॉलेज इज द लिविंग एग्जाम्पल ऑफ फ्लेविया एग्निस इज द लीड। वो तो है, लेकिन सोसाइटी के एटीट्यूड को कैसे आप चेंज करेंगे? और ये जज साहब जानते हैं, ही नोज वेरी वेल, सारी रिपोर्ट्स है कि कितने केसेस, इवन डावरी में कितने केसेस फेक आते हैं। लड़ाई कुछ होती है, लड़ाई इस बात पे होती है कि बहू घर पे रह नहीं रही है, कोई और मसला है, लेकिन उसके ऊपर मुकदमा डावरी का किया जाता है। तो जब हम एक सोसाइटी ऐसी है जहां सच बोलना लोग हराम समझते हैं, जहां लोग सच कम से कम बोलते हैं, और जहां जरा सी भी बात हो तो उसको फ्रेम करने की कोशिश करते हैं। तो वी हैव टू डिस्कस दिस कि ये कैसे रोका जाए। लास्ट तो इतने अच्छे हैं कि अगर इंप्लीमेंट कर दिया जाए तो सारी गड़बड़ रुक जाएगी। लॉस की कमी थोड़ी। बात यह है, अरे आयशा, बात यह है कि सोसाइटी का जो एटीट्यूड है उसको कैसे ठीक किया जाए। बाई चांस आई एम ए मुस्लिम, बाई चांस मेरे खानदान में लड़के पैदा ही नहीं हो रहे हैं, जबकि हम लोगों में कोई ऐसी कमी नहीं है कि लड़की तो पैदा हो रही, लड़का क्यों नहीं पैदा हो रहा, नहीं हो रहा है। लेकिन यकीन मानिए मेरे बड़े भाई है इंडियन ऑयल में, ही इज ए सीनियर ऑफिसर इन द इंडियन ऑयल, हाईएस्ट पोस्ट पर वो रिटायर्ड हुए अभी पिछले साल, सबसे बड़ी पोस्ट पर। उनकी 2 बेटियां हैं। मैं मैडम कसम खा के कहता हूं कि अगर किसी, उनका नाम शफीक है और मैं आपके पड़ोस के रहने वाला, जौनपुर का रहने वाला, आई एम फ्रॉम जौनपुर। कभी झूठे भी हमारे भाई से किसी ने कहा कि शफीक तुम्हारा बेटा कब हो रहा है, तो इतनी बुरी तरह से भाई ने डांटा कि बस समझ लीजिए कि मारा नहीं उसको। और पूरी जिंदगी में कभी हमारे घर में ये पता ही नहीं चला कि हमारे यहाँ 2 बेटियां। मेरा छोटा भाई जो बहुत बड़ा पुलिस ऑफिसर है, उसके घर में भी 2 बेटियां हैं। कभी जिंदगी में हमारे यहाँ ये बात मैडम लालिमा साहिबा कभी नहीं हुई कि तीसरा बेटा कब होगा। उसकी वजह मैडम ये है, वजह यह है कि हमको, मतलब आप ये नहीं समझिएगी कि मैं अपनी चीज की मीठी तारीफ कर रहा हूं, मैं एक एटीट्यूड बता रहा हूं। आई एम टेलिंग कि हमें ये मालूम है कि ये चीज ऊपर वाले ने हमको दी है, इसका रिस्क, इसका सस्टेनेंस भी ऊपर वाला देगा। और प्रॉफिट की वो सेइंग हमको याद है कि प्रॉफिट से एक कंपेनियन ने पूछा, वन से कंपेनियन ऑफ प्रॉफिट मत आस्क्ड कि मेरी एक बेटी है, क्या करूं उसका। उन्होंने कहा तुम उसको अच्छी तरह से पालो, उसकी परवरिश करो, शादी कर दो। तो उनका क्या मुझे इसका अजर मिलेगा, क्या रिवार्ड मिलेगा। उन्होंने कहा यू विल एंटर इनटू पैराडाइज विद 1 डोर। दूसरे ने कहा कि मेरी 2 बेटियां हैं, उनका अगर उसको तुम अच्छी तरह से पाल लोगे, पोस दोगे, शादी कर दोगे तो 2 दरवाजे चाहिए। तो हमारे जहन में ये है कि ये दोनों बेटियां हमारी जो हैं, ये दे आर द डोर ऑफ द जन्नत, पैराडाइज। हम कभी ना मारने की सोच सकते हैं, ना कत्ल करने की कोई सोच सकते हैं, ना डिस्क्रिमिनेट करने की। बात यह है कि सोसाइटी में ये बताया जाए कि जो बेटी है ये बहुत बड़ी चीज है, बेटी बेटे में कोई फर्क नहीं है। और अक्सर आज के माँ बाप जो रो रहे हैं, देखिए मैं प्रैक्टिकल बात करता हूं मैडम, और थोड़ा सा अपनी लैंग्वेज पे भी आ गया कि ये ज्यादा समझ में आती है, बाकी तो वो भी इंग्लिश में बोलेंगे, आप सब बोल रहे हैं अंग्रेजी मेरे अलावा, थोड़ा सा मिक्स कर दिया मैंने। अगर आप आज का सर्वे करें तो माँ बाप ये कहते हैं कि बेटी से ज्यादा आराम है बनिस्बत बेटों के। क्या ये बात हम समझा नहीं सकते कि जिस बेटे के लिए तुम इतनी गड़बड़ कर रहे हो, है, तुम उनको पैदा होने से पहले ही मार दे रहे हो, ये बेटा 90% चांस ये है कि ये बेटी से कम वफादार होगा, बेटी ज्यादा वफादार होगी, वो ज्यादा फायदेमंद होगी। यानी माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, माय डियर कलीग्स, माय डियर पार्टिसिपेंट्स, मैडम, I want to emphasize that we have to work on this aspect. We have so many laws. लॉस तो आप बना दीजिए, आप फांसी का लॉ बना दीजिए रेप का, रेप होता रहेगा। उसकी वजह यह है कि माइंड नहीं चेंज कर रहे हैं, एटीट्यूड नहीं चेंज कर रहे हैं। वो मरते तो लोग रहेंगे बट लेकिन सिचुएशन नहीं होगी। हमको माइंड सेट को चेंज करना है, और माइंड सेट को चेंज करने के लिए मैडम ये कहा जाता है कि हमने पार्लियामेंट से पास कर दिया, ऑल ऑफ अस नो हाउ मेनी परसेंट, कितने लोग जो हैं जिनके ऊपर क्रिमिनल केसेस हैं पार्लियामेंट में, स्टडीज आपको सब लॉ के स्टूडेंट्स हैं, ये इन्होंने लॉ पास कर दिया। लेकिन ये इंप्लीमेंट कैसे हो रहा है, नियत होनी चाहिए। आई एम थैंकफुल टू अवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी साहब that in 2015, perhaps on 12 January or 22nd January, he launched a program, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. I welcome that program. फिर उसके बाद एक स्कीम गवर्नमेंट ने पास की कि बच्ची जो पैदा हो जाए तो उनके लिए एफडी कर दीजिए, आप सब फिक्स डिपॉजिट कर दीजिए, तो जब वो बड़ी होंगी तो शादी के वक्त पैसा मिलेगा, या जब वो शादी करेंगी बड़ी होंगी तब दिया जाएगा, या पढ़ाई के लिए। देयर आर dozens of schemes. Even the United Nations, in the preamble, in UDHR, Declaration of Human Rights 1948, everywhere United Nations treats both the boys and the girls, I mean the man and woman, इक्वल ट्रीटमेंट इज देयर। लेकिन सिचुएशन ये है कि हम लड़की को किस नजर से देखते हैं, हमको नजर बदलनी पड़ेगी। हमारे 3 बच्चे हैं, एक बेटा 2 बेटी। यकीन मानिए जब दोनों बेटियां जब हमसे मोहब्बत करती हैं, मोहब्बत वो भी करता है, वो भी जान देता है, लेकिन ये बेटियों को देख के एक यकीन मानिए ईमानदारी की, इसमें कोई कानून नहीं, कोई पार्लियामेंट नहीं आ रही, कोई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन नहीं आ रहा, मैं बेटी को देखता हूं तो मैं खुश हो जाता हूं। अब कोई ये सोचे हम गॉड नहीं मानते, हमको मालूम है, कुछ लोग सोचते हैं कि मैं गॉड बन जाऊंगा, एक बच्ची होगी, एक को मार दिया उन्होंने पेट में, एक बच्ची होगी तो हम उसकी बहुत अच्छी परवरिश करेंगे, वो डॉक्टर बनेगी, इंजीनियर में आई बनेगी। भाई आप गॉड की पोजीशन में क्यों आ रहे हैं? वाई यू आर टेकिंग द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ गॉड? वाई यू आर थिंकिंग यू आर ईश्वर? वाई यू आर थिंकिंग यू आर भगवान? जब आप कुछ नहीं थे, आप जीरो थे आज से 30 साल पहले, आज आप इतने बड़े आदमी हैं, तो रेस्ट अश्योर्ड की जो ये बच्ची पैदा हुई है, ये अपना मुकद्दर लेके आए। मैं स्पिरिचुअल बात कर रहा हूं मैडम आज, क्योंकि ऐश्वर्य साहब ने बहुत अच्छी बात कर दी, कोई जरूरत नहीं हम उन्हीं केसेस को रिपीट करें। स्पिरिचुअल एस्पेक्ट इसका लीजिए, लीगल की बात अभी एक और होगी, अभी वो बहुत तगड़ी लीगल बात होगी, प्रैक्टिकल बातें होगी। लेकिन ये बताइए कि एक डॉक्टर जिसके पास 5-10 करोड़ रुपए का मकान दिल्ली में है, उसकी बीवी और वो मिला के 20 लाख रुपए कमा रहे हैं, वो अपनी एक बच्ची को सिर्फ इसलिए कत्ल कर देते हैं कि उसकी स्टडीज अच्छी हम करेंगे। ये कहां के लॉजिक मैडम है? ये कहां का? दिस इज अ सेल्फिश एटीट्यूड। और मेरा ये कहना है कि अनलेस द सोसाइटी चेंजेस इट्स सेल्फिश एटीट्यूड, and that attitude is wrong, nothing will happen. मैंने डायरी प्रोहिबिशन एक्ट का आपको हवाला दिया, आई रिफर्ड 1961 में पास हुआ था, आज 60 साल हो गया है, डावरी 10 टाइम नहीं 100 टाइम्स बढ़ चुकी है, लाखों लोग जेल जा चुके हैं। इसी तरह सारे लॉस का। अब देखिए रेशियो की क्या पोजीशन है। अकॉर्डिंग टू सेंसस डेटा इन इंडिया, child sex ratio 0 to 6 years in India was 927 girls over 1000 boys in 2001, which dropped to 918 girls for every 1000 boys in 2011. A 2012 UNICEF report ranked India 41st among 195 countries. In the population census of 2011, it was revealed, इनको रिवील हुआ, हमको पता है, इनको रिवील क्या मालूम नहीं कि ये क्या अंधेर हो रहा है हमारे यहाँ। रोजाना लोकल अखबार उठाइए, हॉस्पिटल के पास बच्चा मिलेगा छोटा, नवजात शिशु, डेली आपको मिलती होगी खबर, इनको रिवील हो रहा। चलिए ये कह रहे हैं, इनको रिपोर्ट लिखने का तरीका है। इट इन द पॉपुलेशन सेंसस ऑफ 2011 इट वाज रिवील्ड दैट द पॉपुलेशन रेशियो ऑफ इंडिया 2011 इज 919 फीमेल ओवर 1000 ऑफ मेल्स। डेक्लाइन हो रहा है फ्रॉम 2001 टू 2012। एजुकेशन बढ़ी, पैसा बढ़ा, इनरोलमेंट बढ़ा, लेकिन सेक्स रेशियो क्यों घट गया इतना पढ़ने के बाद? जब कम पढ़े लिखे लोग थे तो सेक्स रेशियो अच्छा था, अब ज्यादा हो गए तो सेक्स रेशियो कम गया। यानी कि पढ़ाई जैसे जैसे बढ़ रही है, एटीट्यूड में कोई फर्क नहीं आ रहा। ये सेल्फिश एटीट्यूड आपका चल रहा है। ये मैंने सिर्फ ये 2 बातें पकड़ ली, सेक्स रेशियो कम हो रहा है और डावरी वाली बात। यही चीज हर जगह अप्लाई होती है। एज फार एज लॉ इज कंसर्न, एवरी डे, एवरी पासिंग डे द लॉज आर बीइंग पास्ड इन फेवर ऑफ वीमेन एम्पावरमेंट। अभी कुछ दिन पहले लॉ पास हुआ था, सारी पंचायत में जो है वो 33% रिजर्वेशन हो गया, जगह जगह जुडिशरी में रिजर्वेशन हो रहा है। आई वेलकम ऑल दीज थिंग्स, लेकिन मुझे ये बताइए कि इसके बावजूद एट्रोसिटी रुक क्यों नहीं रही? दिल्ली में सबसे ज्यादा पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, एनसीआर में पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, दिल्ली, नोएडा, गाजियाबाद, मेरठ, सब पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, गुड़गांव, अरबपति खरबपति लोग रह रहे हैं। All the foreign nationals, foreign companies are there. Why this phenomena is not decreasing there? Why it is increasing? तो बचपन में एक कहावत सुनी थी कि जू जू दवा की मर्ज बढ़ता गया। इतने पढ़े लिखे लोग ये सब रिपोर्ट्स जानते हैं, इनके यहां अगर ये बढ़ रहा है तो इसका मतलब द रीजन ऐश्वर्य साहब, रीजन ये नहीं है कि लॉज नहीं है हमारे पास, रीजन ये है कि सोसाइटी कबूल करने को तैयार नहीं। द सोसाइटी इज नॉट रेडी टू चेंज इट्स एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स वीमेन। अदरवाइज मैंने घर का 2 एग्जाम्पल दिया, मेरे बड़े भाई की 2 बेटियां, मेरे छोटे भाई की 2 बेटियां। मेरे यहां 2 बेटियां, आज तक कभी जहन में नहीं आया कि इस बेटी को जहेज कहां से देंगे। अरे बेटी ऐसी बनेगी कि उनको लोग ला के पैसे देंगे कि तुम मुझसे शादी कर लो, दे विल गिव 1 करोड़ 2 करोड़ 5 करोड़ रुपीज। वो भी गलत है, लेकिन मैं समझाने के लिए कर रहा, आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू, समझाने के लिए आपके कर। तो ये फिनोमेना, इसके लिए मेंटल एटीट्यूड की जरूरत है। इसके लिए जो लोग, जो सेंसिटिव पीपल हैं, उनको आगे आगे आना होगा। सरकार को ऐसी स्कीम सेंसिटाइज करने के लिए एनजीओ को पैसा देते हैं। मैं किसी एनजीओ को बुरा नहीं कह रहा हूं, लेकिन मैं कहता हूं आंख बंद करके आप अपने शहर की 50 एनजीओ को देख लीजिए, 50 एनजीओ खुद देख लीजिए। शकील समदानी विल नॉट से एनीथिंग। आप कहेंगे शकील समदानी साहब बायस नहीं। आप उन एनजीओ की वर्किंग को देख लीजिए, क्या वो जो सरकार से फाइनेंशियल एड आ रही है, वेदर दे आर यूजिंग दैट एड इन द राइट डायरेक्शन और दे आर यूजिंग इट इन द रॉन्ग डायरेक्शन। एक इशारा काफी है, समझदार के लिए इशारा काफी है। मैं कहूंगा तो लोग रिकॉर्ड कर लेंगे कि शकील साहब तो बुरा भला कह रहे हैं। Those NGOs who are taking money, क्या वो एनजीओ राइट डायरेक्शन में काम कर रहे हैं? और अगर नहीं कर रहे हैं तो ये जिम्मेदारी समाज की भी है और उसके साथ सरकार की है कि उनको टैप करें, उनको पकड़े कि वाई मिलियंस ऑफ रुपीज आर बीइंग सेंट टू यू फॉर फीमेल एजुकेशन, फॉर विडोज, for women, but that money is not going in the right direction, they are going in some other pockets. उसको टैप करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि नहीं? आप लोग बोल सकते हैं हमारे लेक्चर में, मैं तो टीचर हूं बेसिकली ना, कि हमारी अभी मैं एक लेक्चर देके आ रहा हूं मंगलातन यूनिवर्सिटी में, फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट का प्रोग्राम। मुझे 15-20 दिन से बुखार है, फिर भी मैडम से बात हो गई थी। मैंने कहा मैडम मैं जरूर, मैं वहां से आया बिल्कुल बेहोश था, आई वाज लाइक अनकॉन्शियस। 15 बस एक चाय इसलिए पी रहा हूं आपके सामने की है। इसके बाद मुझे अभी एक जगह ना एक प्रोग्राम में अल्लामा इकबाल डे, उर्दू डे मना रहे हैं, वहां मैं चीफ गेस्ट हूं। मेरी हालत खराब है, मुझसे बैठा नहीं जा रहा है, लेकिन मैंने कहा कि अब जब बैठा हूं तो दिल की बात कह दूं। और व्हेनेवर आई स्पीक ऑन दिस बेसिस। किस बेसिस से बात करता है? कि मैं बादशाह हूं दिलों का, ना शायर हूं मैं लफ्जों का। मैं बादशाह हूं दिलों का, ना शायर हूं मैं लफ्जों का। जुबान बस साथ देती है, मैं बातें दिल से करता हूं। शकील समदानी दिल से बात करेगा, कानून दिमाग भी रहेगा और कानून भी रहेगा। मैं दिल से बात कर रहा हूं कि लॉज लिख लीजिएगा, न्यूज में डाल दीजिएगा कि कानून की कमी नहीं है, कानून बहुत हैं। देयर आर लॉट ऑफ लॉज, डजन्स ऑफ लॉज इन फेवर ऑफ वीमेन, बट द एटीट्यूड ऑफ द सोसाइटी that matters and that is not in favor of female. अभी भी नहीं फेल है। रीजंस के ऊपर एक सेमिनार और कर दीजिए कि रीजन क्या है, व्हाट्स द रीजन? बिकॉज ऑफ सेल्फिश एटीट्यूड ऑफ बोथ द पार्टीज। क्योंकि जब आप इस साइड में रहते हैं तो आपको ये अच्छा लगता है, जब उस साइड में जाते हैं तो आप खराब लगता है। तो मेरी एक और बात मैं कहना चाहूँ, लॉज शुड बी जस्ट एंड फेयर। इट शुड नॉट फेवर आइदर men or women. It should fear both. Both means ये जो है एक जैसा लॉ होना चाहिए, जस्ट एंड फेयर लॉ होना चाहिए। While making laws, one should be very fair, and the motto should be the justice, not favoring women or men. उसके फेवर में नहीं होना चाहिए, उसकी भी एक वजह है। क्या हमेशा ऐसा होगा कि आपके खानदान में मेल पैदा हो या किसी के खानदान में फीमेल पैदा हो? ये तो कभी भी चेंज हो सकता है। तो अगर अनजस्ट लॉ होगा तो अभी जिस लॉ पे आप खुश हो रहे हैं, कल आपको बेटा उसमें जब फंस जाएगा, आपका शौहर फंस जाएगा, तो आप कहेंगे तो बड़ा खराब लॉ है। जैसे डाउरी में आपको मैंने बताया, आई हैव टोल्ड यू, जो कह रहा हूं उसे कागजों में मत रखना। जो कह रहा हूं, लिखना नहीं उसको, समझ लेना। जो कह रहा हूं उसे कागजों में मत रखना। मैं किताब नहीं जहन की तलाश में, मैं किताब नहीं जहन की तलाश में। ये जो 2-3 बातें मैंने आपको बताई हैं, ये बहुत अंदर की गहरी सोच के बाद, आफ्टर थिंकिंग अबाउट 30 ईयर्स टीचिंग एक्सपीरियंस, 10 साल लॉ पढ़ा, उसके बाद ये चीजें जहन में आ रही हैं कि ये सारी चीजें अगर नहीं हुई तो आप लॉस बनाते जाइए, बनाते जाइए, बनाते जाइए, बनाते जाइए, सोसाइटी में कहां चेंज आ रहा है, पब्लिक में कहां चेंज आ रहा है? पब्लिक तो वही है, एटीट्यूड तो वही है, सेल्फिश एटीट्यूड को चेंज करना होगा। एंड नंबर 2, लॉस शुड बी जस्ट, ईमानदारी से लॉस बनाइए, ये मत सोचिए कि वीमेन के लिए जा रहा है फेवर, ईमानदारी से लॉ बनाइए। ये आप करेंगे तो मुल्क में वीमेन जेंडर जस्टिस भी होगा और वीमेन, और अब देखिए लीगली स्पीकिंग द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया, इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क, जितना लालिमा साहबा को मिल रहा है उतना ही मेल टीचर को मिल रहा है। जितना ये जो आपकी कमेटी है, मोहिनी शुक्ला को, सुबिदिका को, शर्मा को, अपूर्वा को, वहां जो मेल टीचर्स होंगे इन्हीं कैडर में, उनको सेम मिल रहा है। इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क इज ऑलरेडी गिवन इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी, कोई मतलब तो नहीं ना है, लेकिन एटीट्यूड नहीं बदल रहा है। और एक बात और आप सुनिए, जब आप ऐसे आदमी को पार्लियामेंट में भेज देंगे जिसके ऊपर 10 मुकदमात ऑलरेडी वीमेन मॉलेस्टेशन के, क्राइम के हैं, आप पढ़ी लिखी हैं, लॉ कर रही हैं, क्या आप उम्मीद करते हैं उससे कि वो लॉ अच्छा सा बना देगा आपके लिए, और बन जाएगा तो क्या वो इंप्लीमेंट करने देगा? तो why we should not take a place that we will send to the parliament, the states assembly, panchayats, only the persons, only those candidates who are fair, just and reasonable, who have some passion. मैं तो मोहतरमा सुन लीजिए, लड़कियां ज्यादातर दिख रही मुझे, या कम से कम उनको फेस रखा गया सामने, कि जानवर को भी अगर मेरे और मेरे घर के किसी के सामने कोई एक जरा सा टच कर देता है तो हमारी उससे ऐसी लड़ाई हो जाती है कि आप सोचिए, क्योंकि हमारे दिल में रहम है, हम इंसान को कैसे मारेंगे? परसों हमारे यहां दूध फट गया, आपस की बात कर रहा, दूध फट गया, 3-4 किलो दूध फट गया, वाइफ की तबीयत खराब थी, दूध फट गया, अब हम लोग नहीं खौला पाए, हम कहां खौलाते हैं दूध, बच्ची भी भूल गई, अब दूध फट गया तो किसी और घर में होता तो सब फेंक दिया जाता। हमारी बेटी 12 बजे, कल परसों कोहरा पड़ रहा था, बहुत कोहरा, अभी हम अपने विद इन टाइम से हैं, हमारा टाइम है अभी, हमको जो दिया है उससे एक्सीड नहीं कर, मुझे तो कुछ फोन आ रहा है वहां से, उसने कहा अब्बा जरा एक काम करिएगा, मैंने कहा क्या? कहने लगा अब्बा मेरे साथ थोड़ा मार्केट तक चलेंगे, कॉलोनी के बाहर, अच्छा खासा दूर है। मैंने क्या बात है बेटा, 12 बजे रात में कोहरा, कोई आदमी नहीं? कहना अब्बा वो दूध फट गया है, बाहर बिल्ली और कुत्ते होंगे, उनको पिला के आते। तो मैंने कहा अरे बेटा, मेरी बेटी ने कहा। उसी वक्त मैं तैयार हो गया, मैंने एक हाथ में हाकी लिया, उसने पतीली लिया, और मैंने एक प्लास्टिक का वो लिया जिसमें डाल के 3 राउंड हम लोग गए, पहले थोड़ा सा लेके गया, पी लिया, सब कुत्ते आ गए। फिर एक गाय दिख रही थी, तो बेटी ने कहा अब्बा ये गाय को नहीं मिला, मैंने कहा जाओ ले आओ, वो लाई, फिर गाय को पिलाया, फिर बाकी दूध को बिल्ली। अब आप ये बताइए, क्या हम वीमेन के साथ कहीं ज्यादती कर सकते हैं? क्या किसी गैर मुस्लिम को हम ज्यादती कर सकते हैं? क्या हम किसी गरीब के साथ ज्यादती कर सकते हैं? क्योंकि हम तो एक जानवर को भी इतना प्यार कर रहे हैं, हम इंसान को कर ही नहीं सकते। माय डियर पार्टिसिपेंट्स, माय डियर सारे लोग जो हैं, हमें एक एटीट्यूड पैदा करना पड़ेगा, हमें क्राइम को क्राइम कहना पड़ेगा, हमें ऑफेंस को ऑफेंस कहना पड़ेगा, हमें अनजस्ट को अनजस्ट कहना पड़ेगा। वरना यह नहीं हो सकती कि आज हम अनजस्ट को जस्ट कहें और कल को, आज एक अनजस्ट आदमी को हम भेज दें, कल को उससे हम किसी अच्छे की उम्मीद करें। यह सोसाइटी में एक हवा पड़नी पड़ेगी, एंड वी शुड स्टार्ट इट स्टार्ट फ्रॉम आवर होम। अपने घर से हम शुरू करें, स्कूल की बात नहीं, घर से हम शुरू करें अपने इसको। तो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, आई जस्ट टोल्ड यू दैट, और जहां तक स्ट्रेटजीज की बात है, इसमें कोई शक नहीं, आई कांग्रेचुलेट द, अब जैसे इंटरनेशनल लेवल पर 1945 का UN चार्टर है, वो क्या कहता है? वी द पीपल ऑफ द यूनाइटेड नेशंस determined to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of human person, in the equal rights of men and women and nations large and small. कहीं डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं दिख रहा ना. वी द पीपल ऑफ हियर, सबके लिए है. फिर उसके बाद यूनिवर्सल यूडीएचआर का नाम सुना होगा 1948 का आपने. ये एक बेसिक डॉक्यूमेंट है ह्यूमन राइट्स पे. वो क्या कह रहा है? ऑल ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर बॉर्न फ्री एंड इक्वल इन डिग्निटी एंड राइट्स. फिर उसके बाद क्या कह रहा है वो? आर्टिकल 7 क्या कह रहा है? ऑल पर्सन्स आर इक्वल बिफोर द लॉ एंड आर इंटाइटल्ड विदाउट एनी प्रेजुडिस टू इक्वल प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ लॉज. Everyone is entitled to equal protection against in discrimination, in contravention of the declaration, and against any incitement to such discrimination. UN चार्टर कह रहा है, यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स 48 कह रहा है. उसके अलावा सीडा, जो कि औरतों के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, कन्वेंशन ऑन एलिमिनेशन ऑफ ऑल फॉर्म्स ऑफ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन अगेंस्ट वीमेन, विच इज कॉल्ड सीडा, CEDAW. सीडा ये क्या कहता है? 1979. CEDA is profoundly known as the Magna Carta of women's rights. ये बेसिक चीज है उसकी. मैग्ना कार्टा यानी फर्स्ट डॉक्यूमेंट अब बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. क्या कह रहा है? इट प्रोवाइड्स दैट स्टेट पार्टीज शुड embark on to embody the principle of equality of men and women in their state constitutions or other suitable legislations to ensure through law and other proper means the realistic realization of this principle. बहुत से बच्चों को कमेंट आ रहा है. ठीक है सर. 70 our country is following all the basic norms laid down by the international community, whether it is United Nations or UDHR, CEDA, वो सारी चीजों को हमारे यहाँ. और देखिए there are dozens of laws for women empowerment, for gender justice and for protection of the women. For example, 48 में क्या आया? फैक्ट्रीज एक्ट 1948. 56 में क्या आया? इमोरल ट्रैफिक प्रिवेंशन एक्ट 1956. मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट एक्ट 1961. डावरी प्रोहिबिशन एक्ट 1961. दर्जन भर लॉज आ चुके हैं हमारे. इक्वल रिम्यूनरेशन एक्ट ऑफ 1976. चाइल्ड मैरिज एस्टेट एक्ट ऑफ 1976. The Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971, The National Commission for Women Act 1990, एक कमीशन पूरा बन गया आपके लिए. The Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, वहां जा सकती हैं आप. Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. अब इस पे एक हंसी वाली बात याद आ गई. इतना प्रोटेक्शन हो गया है, अक्सर अभी एक रिपोर्ट आई कि उत्तर प्रदेश में सबसे ज्यादा पति लोग पतियों से पिटते हैं. अभी 1 महीने पहले मैंने हिंदी अखबार में पढ़ा. क्या आप ये चाहती? कल आपको बेटा पति बनेगा, आप चाहेंगे पिटे वो? आपके मामू पति बनेगा, क्या चाहेंगे पिटे? आपके चचा पति बनेंगे? हाँ, मैंने पहले ही कहा, देखो एक तरफ लॉ नहीं, लॉ शुड बी जस्ट लॉ बनाइए आप दोनों के हक में, दोनों की कंडीशन देखिए. उस पर याद आ गया. और जाहिर है कि हम टीचर हैं और सही बात आपको ये रोज अखबार में अब ये हमारे जाने के बाद कही गई. शकील समनाई साहब ने एक बात बताई थी, गूगल पे डालिएगा कि साहब वो हस्बैंड्स के पिटने का क्या रेशियो इंडिया में है, वर्ल्ड में. अभी पता कर लेंगे, है कि नहीं. हम ये भी नहीं चाहते, ना हम चाहते हैं कि बीवी को कोई नुकसान हो, ना शोहर को कोई. सब एक अच्छी तरह से रहे. मियाँ बीवी प्यार मोहब्बत से रहने के लिए बने हैं. मारपीट कर ले थोड़ी, कुश्ती थोड़ी होगी घर में. घर में मोहब्बत का माहौल जब होगा, जब जस्ट माहौल होंगे, सोसाइटी का एटीट्यूड होगा. रेस्पेक्ट आप बीवी की करें, बीवी भी शोहर की रेस्पेक्ट करें, दोनों को रेस्पेक्ट करना, क्योंकि रिश्ता मोहब्बत का है ना. ये इतनी धूमधाम से बारात गई है, ये मारपीट के लिए गई थी बारात. लाखों रुपया खर्च हुआ है, नहीं है ना. बच्चे हंस रहे हैं, लेकिन बेटा देखो हम सही बात बताएंगे. हम शकील समदानी ऐसे नहीं बने, हम कॉस्मेटिक बात नहीं करेंगे. हम शकील समदानी हैं इसी वजह से कि हम सच बात बोलते हैं, और हम थोड़ी सी लोकल लैंग्वेज में बात अपनी करने लगे कि बात समझ में आ जाए. बहुत भारी भारी अल्फाज से अक्सर बात समझ में नहीं आती. सारे बच्चों की अंग्रेजी बहुत अच्छी नहीं आई, कुछ की कम होगी, कुछ की और कम होगी. एक रीजनेबल बात हो रही है क्लास में, ठीक है, 100% पढ़ाए. तो अब उसके बाद प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ डोमेस्टिक वीमेन फ्रॉम डोमेस्टिक, सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट ऑफ वीमेन एट वर्क प्लेस 2013 आ गया, क्रिमिनल लॉ अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 2013 आ गया, और फिर उसके बाद 2008। तो देयर आर डजन्स ऑफ लॉज. We don't need more laws. We want proper implementation as well as the change in the attitude of society. वो औरतों को इज्जत दे, औरतों की रिस्पेक्ट करे, औरतों को राइट्स दे. हम बस इतना चाहते हैं. लॉज की मेरे ख्याल से कोई जरूरत नहीं, बहुत लॉज बन गए. अब उनको इंप्लीमेंट करने की जरूरत है, और इंप्लीमेंटेशन ईमानदारी से होना चाहिए. ये अच्छा, दर्शिता श्रीवास्तव, ठीक है. हर्षिता. अब तो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, ओनली 2 minutes आर लेफ्ट which was allotted to me. I want to conclude my talk. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Legal Studies Department, Center of Legal Studies, Sarojini Lalji Malhotra, for organizing such a wonderful webinar. I am very much thankful to Dr. Lalima Singh, because only due to her request, I am here today. Otherwise, I would have refused. For the last 15 days, I am not feeling well. Viral fever ऐसा आया कि जा ही नहीं पाता. और जाए कैसे वो कम वक्त, जब हर वक्त हम थकी रहे, सुबह से थे 9-8 बजे से उठे थके हुए. अभी फिर एक लेक्चर देना बहुत तगड़ा. अब थक के चूर हो जाएंगे, चाको खाना जाएगा. I am thankful to Dr. Lalima Singh, the dynamic principal of this college. मैंने पहले भी कहा, she is a living example of women empowerment. आप उनको देख लीजिए, उनको देखिए. आपके कॉलेज के लेवल पे तो वही एक रोल मॉडल है कि कैसे वो इतना बड़ा कॉलेज कितनी खूबसूरती से चला रहे हैं. आफ्टर दैट आई एम थैंकफुल टू द कन्वीनर मोहिनी शुक्ला, सुबेदिका शर्मा, अपूर्वा सिंह. इनका तो नाम मुझे मालूम है, बट देयर आर ऑलवेज मेनी पर्सन्स बिहाइंड एनी सक्सेसफुल इवेंट्स प्रोग्राम है. और ये बच्ची जो कर रही है, क्या बड़ा टेढ़ा नाम तुमने रख लिया भाई,
दर्शिता.
दर्शिता. तो और मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि आई एम वेरी थैंकफुल टू ऐश्वर्य प्रताप सिंह, बिकॉज आई सा हिम, I listened to his lecture. He delivered a very wonderful, very thoughtful lecture and explained everything. Legal चीजें उन्होंने आपको बता दी हैं. और बाकी तो भाई सीधी सी बात यह है कि बस एक जहन ये बनाना है, ये बेटी और बेटे दोनों में हमारा खून है, दोनों ही अल्लाह का क्रिएचर है. और एक चीज याद रखिए कि जो आदमी जुल्म करता है किसी के साथ, एक दिन उसके साथ वैसे ही होगा. अभी एक साहब के बारे में मुझे मालूम हुआ कि उनको थ्रोट कैंसर हो गया. जस्ट आधा मिनट और लूंगा, आई विल टेक ओनली हाफ मिनट. थ्रोट कैंसर हो गया तो मुझे फौरन याद आ गया कि उस आदमी ने एक बहुत शरीफ वाइस चांसलर के खिलाफ 1 महीना धरना लगाया था और दिन भर गाली देता था. ऊपर वाले का एक इंसाफ होता है. और इंसाफ, अब जैसे ये ऐश्वर्य साहब जैसे जजेस आएंगे जो ह्यूमनिस्ट अप्रोच रखते हैं, जिनके दिल में दर्द है, जिनको ये इंसान समझते हैं, तो मैं समझता हूं कि इंसाफ होगा. और आखिरी बात यह है कि एज फार एज अवर जुडिशरी इज कंसर्न, दे आर डूइंग देयर बेस्ट. द जजेस, दे आर डूइंग देयर बेस्ट. सुप्रीम कोर्ट जितनी कोशिश कर सकता है करता है, हाई कोर्ट जितनी कोशिश कर सकता है कर सकता है, लोअर कोर्ट जितनी कोशिश कर सकती है कर सकती है. लेकिन जो एटीट्यूड जो चेंज हो रहा है, ये जो मेटेरियलिस्टिक एटीट्यूड हमारा हो गया है, करोड़पति और अरबपति आदमी बच्ची को इसलिए मार दे कि वो कहां से स्टेटस मेंटेन कर पाएगा, तो इससे बड़ी बेवकूफी क्या हो सकती है. एनसीआर इसका सबसे बड़ा एग्जांपल है. गरीब मार देते एक बात समझ में आती कि बेटिया का क्या होगा. लेकिन एक दिल्ली का डॉक्टर, दिल्ली का प्रोफेसर, कोई बड़ा आदमी, इंजीनियर, डॉक्टर, बड़ा सर्विसमैन, जिसके पास हर तरह से पैसा है, वो इसलिए मार दे कि हम परवरिश कैसे करेंगे. तो ये तो माइंड सेट की बात है. इसको कहीं भेजा जाना चाहिए कि इसका माइंड को सही किया जाए. हिज माइंड शुड बी करेक्टेड, क्योंकि उसकी अप्रोच गलत है. तो यही मेन मेरा यह है कि सोसाइटी को अपना एटीट्यूड बदलना चाहिए. हम सोसाइटी को ना कहें, हमको अपना एटीट्यूड बदलना चाहिए कि हम वीमेन इंपावरमेंट की कोशिश करेंगे. बिकॉज बिना वीमेन 50% वीमेन या 48%, 45% के एलिवेशन के बिना उनके एम्पावरमेंट बिना कोई कंट्री तरक्की नहीं कर सकता। और चैरिटी बिगिंस एट होम, आप खुद से शुरू हो जाइए। आज से तय करिए कि हम कोई गलती, कोई इनजस्टिस नहीं करेंगे, चाहे वो मेन हो। देखिए, जेंडर जस्टिस तो जब ही होगा ना, दोनों जेंडर में, कि ना हम मर्द के खिलाफ कोई जुल्म होने देंगे, ना औरत के खिलाफ। केस टू केस हम सेट करेंगे, कहीं मर्द की गलती मिलेगी, कहीं औरत की गलती मिलेगी। ये ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि कहीं हमेशा औरत की गलती होगी या हमेशा मर्द की गलती होगी। तो ऐश्वर्य साहब, चलिए, आपसे बातचीत हो गई। यहां पर आपको देख लिया मैंने इत्तेफाक से। परहैप्स यू आर सिटिंग ऑन द डायस। आप डायस पे बैठे हुए शायद, आपकी चेयर वही वही लग रही है।
नहीं नहीं, आई एम एट माय ऑफिस चेम्बर।
हाँ, वही ऑफिस में, तो वो अच्छा लग रहा है आपका वो चेयर। तो चलिए, आज आपसे मुलाकात होगी, देख लिया। मैडम, आपसे भी विदा लेता हूँ, आप प्रिंसिपल साहबा से। ऐश्वर्य साहब, बहुत अच्छा लेक्चर था आपका, बहुत बहुत अच्छा लेक्चर था।
थैंक यू
और मैंने जो वादा आपसे किया पूरा करूंगा जल्दी ही, कि
सर।
आपका एक लेक्चर हमारे यहाँ होना है।
जी।
आपने कंसेंट दे दिए, ठीक है। मैडम है, मैडम को सलाम कर लूं, बस मैं जा रहा हूँ मैडम आपसे विदा लेके। फिर आप होंगी, आपका सेशन होगा। अच्छा, मैडम कहीं बिजी होंगे। तो इन द लास्ट, आई एम थैंकफुल टू ऑल द पार्टिसिपेंट्स, टू द ऑर्गेनाइजर्स, to SS Khanna Girls Degree College, and to this Center of Legal Studies for organizing such a wonderful webinar, a national webinar. इसमें बहुत अच्छे अच्छे लोग आए। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। वाखिर दावाना अनिल हम्दुलिल्लाह।
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on this topic. And you have very rightly said that attitudinal and behavioral change is the need of hour. And I would like to end this particular session on a very famous quote which is being said these days, that it's time that empowered women empower women. So, Darshita, I would request you to proceed to the next session, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir, for such a beautiful and thoughtful session. And I think everyone present here has loved your presentation and comprehended it. As sir said, the main problem lies in the attitude of the society and not in the implementation or number of laws. Instead of thinking girl child as a burden, we should think girl child as the door to the heaven. And we need to change the selfish attitude of the society, and for that we should have just laws, and also we should elect competent persons to regulate and formulate those just law. I once again thank you, sir, for such a beautiful session. I now request Ms. Mohini Shukla, ma'am, to proceed with the third session.
We can wait for 2 minutes as Flavia ma'am will be joining us within a few moments.
Sure, ma'am.
Participants are requested to stay connected with us as there's a few moments delay on the part of the third speaker to join the session. As soon as ma'am joins, we'll proceed with the sessions. Thank you. Participants also please take note that the feedback link for all this for the session for this webinar will be shared in the various WhatsApp groups that have been created. The feedback links will be posted on the groups once the webinar is over. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are. Please continue.
So, Flavia ma'am has joined us. So, myself, Mohin Shukla, convener of the webinar, would like to introduce our next resource person, Miss Flavia Agnes. She's an Indian women's rights lawyer with expertise in marital divorce and property law. She has written and published numerous articles uh, which have appeared in some famous journals like Economic and Political Weekly, Manushi, and many more. Since 1980s, she has been a practicing lawyer at Bombay High Court. Along with Manushree Datta, Agnes ma'am is a co-founder of Majlis, which is a legal and cultural resource center that campaigns for and provides legal representation for women on issues of matrimonial rights, child custody, etc. Since its inception in 1990s, Majlis has provided legal services for around 50,000 destitute women. We are grateful to you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable time with us. Over to you, ma'am.
I am muted here.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
The video is stopped, right? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me for this webinar. I think there were a lot of issues to be sorted out, but I'm glad it is all sorted out now and I'm here. Um, so I'm sure you had very interesting lectures up to now, which I missed most of them because I could not get connectivity. But I will, for the next few minutes, talk about our organization and how we help women and how we try to change values. Now, this campaign, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, is a very important, significant campaign for us in India because actually we always had a contempt for girl child. There is girl child negligence. There was denial of equality, equal opportunities in our society. Even during the British time, in 1872, a law was passed that parents should not kill their daughters, preventing female infanticide. It was in 1872, during the British time. So you can imagine how much contempt various societies had and how many customs were there that did not welcome a daughter on her birth. In fact, we have villages and villages where there's not a single daughter was born for so many decades. We even have it in the contemporary times. The modern version of it is sex determination test and abortion of the female fetus if it is detected in time. So a law had to be passed first in 1988 in Mumbai and 1994 all over India, preventing clinics from identifying a female fetus, which then leads to the abortion of that fetus. Various diagnostic centers had to display very clearly that we do not conduct sex determination tests. So here the issue is, why don't people welcome daughters? So the question is that the subordinate position that girls have in various states to different degrees, southern states as well as North Indian states, but North Indian state is much more profound, that a daughter is not valued in the family. So whatever you do to the daughter is not meant for the family. That's a waste. That's not going to bring in any rewards for the natal family. So whether it is educational opportunities, whether it is discrimination in food, what is given, whether milk is given or not to a female child, what kind of school she's admitted into, whereas boys will be admitted in English medium schools, girls will be admitted to a vernacular school, which is cheap, which is easily available, etc. They've gone through all these stages. And at the first instance, we take our daughters out of school. Whenever there is any insecurity, public insecurity, like there is a riot or there is some rape somewhere, then the first response of the parents is, we want to keep our daughter secure, so we don't want to send her to school. Now, all this is happening in our society, has been happening, currently also has happened. Now, if a law is brought, it can punish somebody. It can punish a doctor who engages in these malpractices. It cannot bring a change in attitude. For instance, if a girl is born, the first concern of the parents is, oh my God, a daughter is born, that means we have to now start collecting money for a dowry. From the time she is born, this is a botheration for the families. Though we have from 1960 onwards, very clear laws that you cannot demand dowry, you cannot take dowry, you cannot give dowry. And also there are certain criminal sections which deal with dowry death, abetment to suicide. Various such things are there in our statute books. And despite it, this continues. So this Beti Bachao Beti Padhao is a more recent slogan that is in like 2-3 years ago, actually. But the fact is that we needed to have this slogan, that we need to have laws. We need to have laws against to save a child from our own parents, not from strangers. You can say rape happens from strangers, dowry violence happens in the matrimonial home from the husband side. But here we are having laws to protect that child, a vulnerable child who is defenseless child, against her own parents who are supposed to protect her and keep her safe, educate her, make her a strong person. Instead of that, we needed to have state intervention to stop the killing or neglect of a girl child. In fact, now our statistics indicate they have a demographic category of children 0 to 6 years. And if you see this 0 to 6 years, how many more girl children die as compared to boys? At birth, you have a higher female birth rate than the boys. But by the time they reach the age of 6, many girls die. Far more girls die than boys. Though physically, naturally, girls are endowed with greater resilience. They have greater chances of living compared to a boy. And yet in our country, girls don't live. And a lot of killings of the girls happen, or the neglect of the girl happens between the age of 0 to 6. Now, when I said, what does our organization do? Here I want to say this is not our area of work. Our area of work is providing legal remedies when there are problems come. One of the areas that we work in is giving legal support to the children who are sexually abused. Now, when you say sexually abused, a child is now defined under a law till the age of 18. Earlier it was 16, now it is 18. So till 18 years, she is a child. And any violation, sexual violation that happens, comes under a special category called POCSO Act. And we have been lending this support for like over 1,000 girls in the last like 3-4 years. And when we say support, what do we mean? We mean that holding her hand while she walks the legal journey. That means a FIR is filed and then a trial must happen. But between the FIR and trial, there may be 2 or 3 years that go before. So in the middle, various things happen to her. For instance, she may have become pregnant. She would have got certain diseases. She may have to change her school. Maybe they have to change their house, various various things. She might have to drop out of school. Various things happen to her. So through that, she needs some guidance. Through that, she needs some kind of support. Now, most state governments also have declared compensation for a rape victim even before the trial, before the trial is concluded, because she needs support at this journey from the FIR till the trial. But it is a Herculean task to obtain that compensation. So who is there to help her? According to me, in our system, there is no category as helping a victim at the pre-trial stage. So our organization tries to fill this gap and provide that much needed support for young girls to walk that legal journey, to see all her documents are in order, what has been stated in her FIR, whether medical tests were all done or were not done, or whether she's aware of what are the case papers. She knows what is recorded in FIR, because she may not even speak the state language, which is Marathi. And she might be from Hindi speaking community or South Indian community. She may not have gone to school. She's not literate. And then FIR is written in Marathi. And it says it is read out to her. Most of the time, it's not even read out to her. Even if it is read out to her, she may not understand what is written there. And what she has told the police and what police have recorded may not be exactly the same thing. There may be discrepancies in that. And now when she goes for trial, she will be asked, she will be cross-examined on her FIR. And when she's cross-examined, she has to repeat exactly what is stated in the FIR. But if she doesn't know what is stated in the FIR, how will she narrate what is written in the FIR? So this is one of the most critical avenues where a girl needs help. And she's a young girl. She's a girl under 18. She may be 8 years or 10 years or 12 years or 14 years. And it's extremely difficult. It is a very frightening experience. I don't know how many of you have ever gone to a sessions court. Have you ever seen a cross-examination? Have you ever seen the recording of our evidence? I don't think you have ever seen, because all of you think, oh, it is for others, not for me. I will never go into this. I will never have the need to come to court and give evidence, because I'm belonging to a particular section. I'm belonging to a particular family. It will never happen to me. Till it happens, every girl thinks like this. And no parent thinks that it is important to expose my daughter, to educate my daughter. What is the law? What is the procedure? What needs to be complied? We don't bother about this at all. Even our teachers don't tell us. Our parents don't tell us. They just don't want to talk about it. They want to ignore it. They don't want to admit that this happens. Till it actually happens. Even if it happens, more likely than not, the matter will be hushed up. It will not be reported to the police also. Unless the rape is very grave and there are grave injuries and the girl is taken to the police station. In other situations, they don't even file an FIR. And there's a lot of collusion between the rapist and the police in most situations. But one very important aspect of rape that we deal with is rape by family members, most often rape by fathers. These cases never come out. They accidentally come out because the girl has become pregnant. And then the family doesn't know, or she's taken for some other pretext to a police station, to a hospital. Maybe her periods are delayed. So she's taken to the hospital, hospital. There she's checked. There she's discovered that she's pregnant. And then the process starts that who could have done this to her. Because the girl may be 12 or 13 or 14 or 15, very young girl. And then it might be revealed that this is sexual abuse by father. Then what do we do? How do we handle this situation? How does this young girl handle this situation? How does a mother handle this situation? How can a family members handle this situation? How does the entire community view her once this case comes out? And the concern for everybody is that how will we get this girl married? Somehow we have to get this girl married. We have to hush up the entire affair. We should see that nobody comes to know about it. Rather than empowering the girl, rather than helping the girl to cope with the situation, all we try to do is to first make an attempt to say, this didn't happen. This is a figment of your imagination. Or the father didn't do it. Some stranger must have done it. Or most often it is like she must have had a boyfriend and the boyfriend has done this to her, but she's putting the blame on the father. So there are all kinds of stories. But when the child is born and a DNA test is done, or even an abortion is carried out and a DNA test is done, then it will be revealed who is the father of that fetus. And then father's DNA and the fetus DNA is matched, and then it is revealed that is sexual abuse happened in their own family. Or not just father, but we have cases of grandfather, we have cases of uncles, we have cases of brothers, we have got all kinds of relatives harming this child. So it is such, and the child doesn't know what is happening to her. Child doesn't know what is happening to her is an offense. She thinks it's all done in good faith. It's a father. He couldn't harm her. Because we have never told a child what is sexual abuse. Firstly, what is sex? What is a pregnancy? And we have never talked to her about child sexual abuse. Though we know it happens in our society, we know there are so many cases it happens in our society, but we don't pay attention to it. So once an FIR is filed, our work starts to meet the girl, to meet her family, to meet and find out if she needs a safe shelter away from her home, where she can be secure. Our burden is to find out whether she is going to school, and whether if she's not going to school, then what are the attributed characteristics which have stopped her from education? Can she like shift to a home and then go to school? Various other options. What is the mother doing? Is the mother supporting her or supporting the accused father? There are many times the mothers do not support the girls at all and bring a lot of pressure on the girl to retract. It is here that she really needs help and support. It's not only where it is father, but even in other situations, like the accused is a powerful person, the accused is a local gunda, where the accused is some politician's son. When all these cases are there, when the power structure is totally skewed against the girl, there are pressures from every side. There's always the lure of money that we will pay you, tell the parents, we will pay you so much money and the girl must now retract and we'll get her married also. We pay for the marriage expense also. You can imagine what pressure on the parents when such a things happen. And how can we expect this girl of 13 or 14 to stand firm against everybody? Because nobody wants to believe her. The judges don't believe her. The police do not believe her. Parents do not believe her. Community doesn't believe her. And her lone voice that this happened to me. And we always think she has made up this story. She might have been angry with her father. She has made up this story. She must have had a boyfriend and then she made up a story. So all the time we distrust our daughters. We distrust a daughter from the age of 12 to about 22, 23. We think girls are liars. They'll always tell lies. So against this pressure, we stand with the girl. We tell her that we are here to support you. You tell us what problems you face, and we will help to solve this problem. And finally, when the day comes when she's called to court, imagine a girl has gone and filed a complaint. 2 or 3 years have gone by. Now suddenly one day, one police havaldar comes there and says, you're called to court tomorrow. You have to give evidence. Imagine what happens to her. Imagine how nervous she would be. It's like saying you have to, without any notice, you are called to give your board exam with 1 day's notice. From tomorrow, the exams will start. It's just an exam. Yet you will be so scared. You will go to pieces that we didn't get any notice. We were not prepared, etc. Whereas here, this girl has not even gone to school. She's about 14 years. She now has to go to court. And she has to meet a very astute defense lawyer, a male. Her public prosecutor, who is supposed to support her, may not even be there in the court, must be busy in some other court. So it is in this moment that we are there with her. We do a rehearsal with her. We go through the documents. We say this document say this. Suppose it happened, say, early morning, around 7 or 8 o'clock. But she doesn't remember, she says it happened in the afternoon. Then the case fails there only. Or supposing the color of her clothes is recorded, and she says my clothes were blue, and in the evidence she says my clothes were orange, then the case fails there itself. So we have to, every single aspect of the incident, we have to bring back to her memory and say, this is what happened, this is what happens. And this is the kind of questions you will be asked. And this is the answer you have to give. Because she has not answered any exam. She has not gone to school. She doesn't know what is a question answer. What is a Bible? She doesn't know anything. And then also that she doesn't have to answer to the defense lawyer. Her answer is to the judge. So the lawyer cannot intimidate her. She must give all her answers to the judge. Supposing she has not understood a question, she must ask tell the judge, sir, I did not understand this question. Judge can be a male or female. Nowadays, most rape cases, there are female judges. Just tell the judge that I didn't understand the question. I want the question to be repeated so I can answer. Now, the new Protection of Children Against Sexual Assault Act, which we call the POCSO Act. Now, this act actually helps to have a support person in court, and it gives lot of provisions for the girl so that she doesn't lose confidence. For instance, when evidence has to be recorded, you cannot, the police has to come in plain clothes. A lady police officer must come in ordinary sari and go and talk to the girl so that girl is not scared. Firstly, lady officer. Secondly, plain civilian clothes, not in police uniform. She must spend a lot of time with the girl, make the girl at least, and then record her evidence. She can't just go and say, tell your name, tell your age, tell what happened, etc. She has to familiar with herself. Make the girl comfortable. Maybe it requires 3 or 4 sittings, but they have to spend this time. Thirdly, while giving evidence, if she's tired, she can say, I can't answer anymore. Shift the matter for tomorrow. Or I need a break. I need to drink water. Or I'm tired. I need to sit down and give my evidence. Now, all these facilities are there, but nobody explains to her that she has this facility. Sometimes she feels like crying. She cries in the witness box. To tell her it is okay to cry. There's no problem in crying. The judge will understand you. If you're scared, you tell the judge, I'm feeling very scared because the accused person is in the court and I can't give evidence when he's staring at me like this. So there has to be a screen between the accused person and the victim while she's giving evidence. So we have a lot of protection in law, but we do not follow it. Our public prosecutor doesn't follow it. Our judges don't tell the victim that you have all these rights. They don't explain to her. Her parents don't understand, her teachers don't understand, nobody understands. So how is she to know all these things? I feel this program, which is called the Rahat program, to support the victims of sexual abuse, is our most powerful program, most innovative program, because such support is hardly given by any NGO at all. We are not just NGO as social worker, we are also lawyers. So we understand the law and we give her support understanding the law, explaining the law to her. And our success rate is about 70% in the cases that we represent. Because we make the girl comfortable. We think making the girl comfortable is the most important thing in this entire procedure. Now what happens here when the case fails, when the accused is not convicted, he is acquitted, then what happens? The girl becomes a liar. She is blamed for filing a false case. Nobody says that she did not get enough support, because of which she could not answer a cross-examination properly. Nobody told her. And the work of the defense lawyer is to confuse her. so that she makes mistakes in her evidence. Without anybody preparing her, can you understand that? Without anybody preparing her, without anybody telling her what to expect, without telling her what is a court look like, what is a judge, what is the role of a judge, what is the role of a public prosecutor, what is the role of a defense lawyer. All this has to be explained to her because she has never seen this. She's never gone to court. And now she has to answer all these things. So according to me, without these kind of support, our legal system does not work at all. Because we have not put in place many of these very basic elements. When we say Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, now in the rural areas, we know that school is very far. Going to school itself is risky. If there's one girl who is sexually abused on the way to school and back, all the families in that area will not send the girls to school at all. So how will we say Beti Padhao? Because they will say, first give us security. First ensure that our Beti can go to school and come back very safe. Without that, there's no point in saying Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. And you all know the Hathras case, you know what happened there, the brutal violation that took place, you know, all these issues that were involved in that case. But this is not an exception. It happens all the time. In some of our states, it's more than others. But it happens everywhere. And it happens, and then there's a case filed. Case always is filed because that is the minimum, particularly if it is a case reported in the press, there will always be an FIR. But then what? After that, what do we do? Why doesn't it? Because what we think is, first, a case must be reported, number one. Secondly, a punishment should be stringent. Like it should be death penalty or remainder of your entire life. But we're not saying whether the case will reach the stage of conviction at all, because in between there is nothing. So most of the cases get away. Our conviction rate is about 20-25% at the most at the national level. All the other cases fail. So that means 75% of the girls whose cases are filed and who have gone through this torture are now declared by the court that they are liars. This whole story is figment of our imagination. Such a thing never happened. And that is the tragedy. So it breaks the girl completely. She thinks that why did I ever go to police station? Why did I file this case at all? It's better if I didn't do this. The parents think we should not have gone to police. We should have quietly sent this girl out somewhere, got her married, and she would have been saved. Because this is what is the lesson we are getting into our criminal legal procedure. We're not getting a respite. We're not getting the kind of response the family or the girl is looking for when they go to the police and file a case. You need somebody you can trust. You need somebody who's there for you whenever you call upon that person. And public prosecutor is not a job. The police, it is not their job. The doctor, it is not their job. It's nobody's job. Everybody's job is to collect enough evidence and put it before the court. That's all. And public prosecutor has to be there for the state. Who's there for the girl? And this has been my question since I entered the anti-rape movement, women's movement, way back in the 80s. In this entire criminal system, who is there for the girl? Unless some NGO comes in, steps in, and provides the support, the state has no mechanism to support the victim. They only have mechanism where it's a maximum punishment, death penalty, or a penalty for the entire life. Beyond that, all our law reforms until the last one, 2013 one, it only dealt with stringent punishment. It didn't look at the girl and the support she's needed. Now later, the focus shifted to compensation, that she must be given compensation. That compensation doesn't come most of the time. You have to struggle so much to get the compensation. But even if she gets the compensation and if she's not able to prove her case, she has to give back the compensation. Can you imagine the injustice over there? Firstly, she has not got the support. She's got whatever 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, whatever. And now she has to return that money because the case was not proved. As if she is the investigating agency. She is not the investigating agency. She's only a witness over there. So how can you have a raw law like this? So this is the deficiency in a criminal legal system. While we say all rapes must be reported, all the girls must go and find a case, you go a little deeper and you find out how can we make it safer for the girl so that she's able to depose in court. So the trial will be fair. She'll get a fair chance to say what she wants to say. Now imagine there are girls with disabilities. There are girls with speech defect. There are girls with mental disabilities. There's so many kind of disabilities, and because of the disability, she gets raped. And yet we pay no attention to this. They're so happy to declare the girl a liar rather than understanding what is her problem. So since you're all like near that age group, and this is your team, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, I thought I would just speak about it so that it makes sense to you. If I speak about any other law, it may not make sense to you. But this is something you will understand, because I want to say again, rape is not something that happens to others at all. Rape is something that can happen to any of us. All of us are in that bracket where either I or my close friend or my neighbor or somebody known to me, my relative, can happen, rape can happen to any of them. Do you all agree? Agree? I'm not talking about some figment of imagination. I live in Mumbai, and I'm talking about all these things happen in Mumbai. It is not rural area, somewhere back off, illiterate people, nothing. It happens in a city like Mumbai, where there are so many angels working. It happens in Delhi, it happens in Bangalore. It will definitely be happening in your city. Everywhere, wherever you are. So whenever I talk to students, girl students particularly, of this age group, I feel it is important to convey this message that what they should do. Suppose it happens to any of you. What should you do? You have no idea at all. You think you have to go to the police station. You think you have to go to the police. But you don't have to go to police. You can go to the hospital directly. The hospital has to admit you. There they have to collect the evidence. And they can phone the police officer. He can come and record. This one's very simple, very basic. Yet we don't know this very basic. Then we say we went to the police station ignored us. They said not jurisdiction, our police station, you go to another police station. So you're sent from one police station together. All that is not required to happen at all if you go to the hospital. Every hospital, whether private or public, is bound to admit a rape victim and give her treatment and collect the evidence. This is something that must happen earliest, but it doesn't happen at all. So the problem is not that we don't have laws. The problem is we don't have enough people who are aware of the law and are ready to help the victim. We prefer to look the other way and go away rather than stand there and be of help. So according to me, in colleges, in schools, we have to have this basic lesson. What is safety? What is the safety for a young girl? How do you protect yourself from getting sexually assaulted? It can be not just father, it can be a teacher, it can be a doctor, it can be anybody around, somebody you trust, a counselor, all kinds of people. But we have to be aware, and we have to spread this awareness to others. And this is, I think, very primary, very basic. And I think my time is over, but I will answer a few questions if you have them. Are there questions in the chat box or? Okay. Anybody has questions, you can ask me directly, or you can put it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I don't think so there's any question in the chat box.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a thought-provoking and enlightening session. I must say that the participants will get well informed by these insights.
Thank you, ma'am, for having such a thoughtful and informative session with us. And we are great to have you on this webinar. I now request Ms. Mohini Shukla, ma'am, to give vote of thanks.
I, Mohini Shukla, on behalf of the Saroj Lalji Mehrotra Center of Legal Studies, would like to extend a hearty vote of thanks to our esteemed speakers for gracing this occasion with their insights and thought-provoking insights and enhancing our mental horizon. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our principal, Professor Lalima Singh, who stimulated us to organize this webinar, and also the students of Saroj Lalji Mehrotra Center of Legal Studies. At last, I would like to thank all the participants for their enthusiasm and for helping us to make it a success. I'd like to end this webinar with a beautiful quote by Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men, girls and boys. It is everyone's responsibility. Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The feedback form link has been posted in the chat box. Participants can access to that from the chat box.
Thank you all so much for having me here. It was a real pleasure to give this lecture to you all.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry I could not join in earlier. There was some problem of joining in. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
What are the issues covered by other speakers? Can you tell me?
Yes, ma'am. Our first speaker, he talked about the laws that were made regarding the women's safety, and he also put emphasis on the awareness that how implementation awareness is more important than implementation. Then our second speaker, Samdani sir, he talked about the attitude of society, which is very selfish and sick toward women, and he emphasized on the importance of having a girl child and the privilege that is given to you, that a girl child is a door to the heaven. And he also talked about the competency of the lawmakers, that as a responsible citizen you should choose your lawmakers carefully, because a competent person is only will be able to regulate and formulate laws which are just and good for society.
And nobody covered this issue which I covered.
No, ma'am, that
Not
was
anybody.
no, ma'am. That
Okay.
was you only. And ma'am, it was very informative. Thank you once again for that.
Okay.
The
Okay.
participants are requested to keep their cameras on for a screenshot. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. I leave.
Thank you all of you
Yes,
for
ma'am.
joining us. You may all leave. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Darshita was wonderful in her responses, I must say.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of like if somebody gives a feedback, then it makes me more enthusiastic, because at least I get the feeling that they're understanding at least some of what I'm saying. When you nod, like some of you did nod, but most of you I could not make out whether you were understanding and connecting with what I say.
No,
But
ma'am. Your
Darshita
session was very informative, I must say. We
and
learned a
also
lot.
nodding at the right time, so I was very happy to say that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time once again. Thank you, ma'am. All of you can leave. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar.